So good morning, good morning. I hope you guys had a wonderful night. Hope you guys have a great trading session. We're going to be keeping things nice and simple, very safe today. Nothing aggressive. As we can see, the overall market is trying to remain bullish. Of course, after a large bounce to the upside yesterday, the market does seem like it wants to retrace a bit, which is normal. It's a normal price action. There is some profit taking that occurs after a large bounce like that. But now the question is, how low are we going to go? That is the main question. So let's see what ends up happening. I hope you guys have a wonderful trading session. Hope you guys do very, very well. We're going to try our best. We're going to do our best. We're going to stick to our plan. We're going to be patient. We're going to trade very, very well and properly, right? We're not going to force any trades. We're only going to take the best possible, highest quality trade setup. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, Jay Rome. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, guys. All right. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun trading session today. Should be a good trading session today. All right. Should be a nice, fun trading session today. It's going to be a good time. We're going to do well. And, yeah. Let's see how things go. Okay, the market's going to open in about 12 minutes now. Do we have any major news coming out? Of course, we have CPI data tomorrow. But today, there is not that much news. So tomorrow morning is the only main, important news, and that's at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow morning. Today, there's no real news. So that's really, really good. What we are seeing right now as well is the VIX is trying to hold support, so it makes sense. There's going to be a bit of a bounce, So let's see if the bounce does continue in the VIX and if this support holds. Generally speaking, when there is support on the VIX and we do end up bouncing a bit, that does pull the market back a bit, which is normal. So we're going to go ahead and see if this continues to the upside on the VIX. Okay, nice and simple. So for now, we do want to just be patient. We're not going to force anything. Yesterday, we were very patient. Today, we also have to remain very, very patient because while the market is trying to even itself out, you don't want to be aggressive. Okay? There's too much important news going on internationally. One little tweet can cause a huge move to the upside or the downside. Okay? So it's really not the time to play very, very aggressively. It makes way more sense to remain patient, not to force anything, and to allow the trades to come to us, not to force anything. Okay? Wong Slam, good morning. Mr. Knight. So we're just going to be very, very nice and simple, waiting for the market to open. Let's see what ends up happening. We should potentially, this is overall really strong, but this is a continued strong move to the upside. Normally, we do get a bit of a pullback after such a huge move to the upside. We do get a bit of a pullback. But the issue is that a lot of this pullback already occurred overnight. So that is the only real issue here. Because we were, it did make sense to get a pullback, but the pullback just occurred, right? Like in the morning. So we're going to be trading. Once again, we're just going to be trading the NASDAQ and the S&P 500. So let's, yeah. Waiting for the market to open. Nothing to do. I think it shot up too fast. I don't think the move up is done. We'll get a retracement, see if resistance or support, and wait for confirmation for the continuation to 150. For the continuation to 150 on what ticker? Are we talking about on oil? Oil go down. Oil, yeah, oil did pull back on WTI. Oh, okay. Wow. Maybe. Yeah, I mean, the macroeconomic reasoning for what is going on in the Middle East didn't get any better. The only reason why oil even went down was because of Trump's trying to calm the situation down with a tweet. So, the macroeconomic situation is still bad. Oil should still be pretty high, but this is purely just technicals. We were very, very far overextended, and it couldn't really maintain itself. That's really the only reason why we had this sort of a pullback. But overall, even with the morning price action that we're seeing so far on the market, it's really not. It doesn't really look conducive with for example, when we're looking at the early morning price action of the market, it just does not seem like it wants to really continue to the upside. It's really trying to look like it wants to get a pullback, which is causing a bit of an issue, right? Like, especially when the market is really trying to make a decision in terms of what direction it wants to go, that's when things become a bit more difficult. That, coupled with the fact that we're having tons of tumultuous news out of the Middle East, with crude oil shooting up 20-30% in a day and then dropping 30% in a day, a lot of this volatility is not really helpful, especially for day trading. So regardless of what's going on in the overall macroeconomic view, for day trading specifically, what we're going to end up seeing right now is the VIX is still going to be trying to be high. The contract prices of the option contracts are going to be a bit higher than normal. We're going to see a bit more choppy price action. And I still want to maintain and remain light in my position sizes. I don't want to be very aggressive in my position sizes today. I want to rather be I would rather miss out on an opportunity than force trades that normally work. Okay. So I'm going to really, really try to be very patient. That's what we've been doing. Yesterday, for example, we were very patient. We took a really, really nice trade. And then we took more trades after that. Very patient, calm. If we miss an opportunity, we miss the opportunity. I would rather miss out on an opportunity of making money than force a trade and end up losing the money. All right. So, we're going to go ahead and, do our best, continue to do our best. And we're going to stick to our system. We're going to stick to our rules. We're going to stick to our proper risk management. We're not going to trade emotionally. And as we do that, the money is an afterthought, Good morning, Yoda. Good morning, Shay Sharps. How to read the VIX. Essentially, with the VIX is that the opposite occurs in the overall market. When the VIX rises, the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq do the opposite, which means they fall. Proper risk. Yep. Joe John, I feel like the game we got from the Trump news yesterday will get negated today. He just said it to calm things down, but it isn't actually true. That's my thought process as well. But for it to get negated down, it would be such a crazy. Essentially, we would need a repeat of a big move to the upside in terms of crude oil, and then we would need the overall market to really drop very heavily. So let's see. Let's see what ends up happening. It's going to be very interesting. We are seeing the Nasdaq bounce a bit in the early morning. Unfortunately, right at 8 a.m. we bottomed out a bit on the futures here. Let's go ahead and just check that out real quick. Unfortunately, we bottomed out a bit on the futures at 8 a.m. and we're bouncing a bit off of this, which is unfortunate, right? But it is what it is. This move has already began, and you can't really do much about it. It'd be crazy if we see 600 on the QQQ. Yep. All right, let's go ahead and get this situated for the stream. Okay. All right, guys. Market is going to open. Market is going to open in the next minute or so. All right. We might see a huge pop to the upside, but it doesn't really seem that bullish to me right now. This move does not seem that bullish. Let's see what happens in the next couple of seconds. We could see a huge pop. That's the only thing that'll save this move to the downside. And it looks like we are seeing a huge pop. Yeah, something like this is not really, a really safe trade, right? But, they're trying to keep this up. And the only way that they could have kept this bearish situation up is with a huge pop to the upside. So we have to take calls, it seems. So it looks like we're going to most likely take some very light position of calls soon. All right. Especially with the market bouncing like this. Unfortunately. Unfortunately. All right, I'm in light SPY calls or QQQ calls. Sorry, I'm in light QQQ calls. Very, very light. Very, very light. This is a risky trade. Very lotto position here. This is a very, very risky trade, unfortunately. Have to take it. Let's see if we continue the move to the upside. This is a really, really risky trade. I would generally just wait. But unfortunately, we have to take it. This is a really risky, bad trade. I would normally not take a trade like this, but the upside momentum is definitely there, and we have to let it play out. Mm-hmm. So we essentially need to hold 607.80. All right. This is the level that needs to hold on the QQQ. 607.80. We're basically right at support. And the SPY needs to hold above 676.60. Overall, you know, it was a really risky trade. I would normally not take a sort of trade setup like this, but when you see a lot of upside momentum, it's unfortunate. But this is a sort of setup that you unfortunately have to take. And when the odds of success are not as high, you have to lower the position size. So that's why I entered with a lotto size. And yeah, you know, when you see the bounce occurring off of the lows, a situation where the market does seem like it wants to continue to bounce, it is what it is. You can't really do much about it. Let the chips fall where they may. That's life. This is a good re-entry actually, to add, but let's just see what ends up happening. But they're really trying to keep this at a bottom here. If we were not already into a trade, this would be a really, really good spot for an entry. So because this is a really, really good spot for an entry right now, it's telling me that it's a good overall long opportunity still in the market. The QQQ is still holding 607.80. It's an interesting spot. Interesting spot. We're not going to add to anything, but they're really trying to hold support. What we saw over the past couple of days with the VIX high like this is that at support, they're going to bounce it. And at resistance, they're going to pull it back. So what happens now? Let's just see, especially with this big wick to the upside. This is, they're going to play around with the theta of the contracts. But pragmatically speaking, we are still holding above support. And let's see if this ends up playing out. Can't really do much about it. It's such a good opportunity to re-enter, man. Or I mean, to average in, man. Really, really good spot to average in. Damn. But I just don't want to add right now purely because of where we are on the market and purely because of these wicks that we're seeing here. These can easily be fake outs, but they are really trying their best to hold this up at support, which is really unfortunate. So I really want to see a quick move to the upside. That would make it very easy and simple for bulls. The IWM bottomed out at the 200 simple moving average. The SPY held support. The NASDAQ also held support. But this is, this is what's basically happening right now is this is a bear flag. Okay? This is a bear flag. And we need to see a nice strong rip to the upside. If not, then this is going to break down lower, of course, obviously, because bear flags are bearish patterns. But we're creating a bear flag at a level of support. Does that, so that is the conundrum that we're currently in, right? So let's see what ends up happening. We're about to sell this for a loss. Yeah, all right. I'm out of this for a loss. It is what it is. Had to take it. Oh man. Shit, I think that's unfortunate. Did we just get faked out? I just re-entered. God damn, bro. That's crazy. Okay, so I'm basically in again. This needs to hold above 607.80. Let's see if this ends up breaking up to the high of day as expected earlier. Can't really do much about it. We just have to take every trade separate. My overall thought process remained bullish. It is what it is. I have a better average on these contracts. Obviously, we entered, um, you know, but it's just unfortunate price action that we're seeing right now. Very choppy. Big fake outs essentially is going on. But yeah, I'm not going to allow these contracts to go red, right? So for everyone that's here, god damn, bro, I got a really good average. But essentially, that sucks. I don't want the contracts to drop below. I don't want QQQ to drop below 607.80, 607.70-ish area. That is the continuation point for this move to the upside. It really wants to pop. All morning it's been wanting to pop. That's why I entered in the morning. That's why, we had to re-enter at the bottoms. It is what it is. Even if you entered late, even if you re-entered late, you're up on this. Should have made up for some of the losses earlier. But that's the unfortunate reality so far of this market right now. But that's life, We at least made up some of the losses. I did mention that the first trade that we took was very, very risky. The second one, purely, we got faked out to the downside. We had to re-enter. It is what it is. So now, right, pragmatically speaking, the NASDAQ is at a level of resistance. We're at 609.30 on the NASDAQ. The SPY is trying to maintain above 677.20. The IWM is showing some strength, but there's no guarantee that the IWM can maintain above 253. So with the IWM trying to hold above VWAP, that can keep some strength in the SPY. But overall, We need to see a big move to the upside soon, or else this is going to really capitulate lower. They really need to bounce it in the next couple of minutes, or else we're going to see new lows and a retest of potentially 604 on the QQQ. But what we're seeing right now, pragmatically, is now the IWM is making a new local high. It broke above VWAP. So let's see what happens here. Doesn't look too great. The longer it takes, it doesn't look too great. So make sure you guys don't let the contracts go red. The main point of contention is going to be the 607.70-ish area, which coincides pretty well with the 200 simple moving average on the QQQ 1 minute time frame. Still trying to hold the support, but we're not seeing a lift off above resistance. So that is what we're basically waiting for. And all we can do when the VIX is in a very skyrocketing, strong environment is you have to just go long at support. And let the chips fall where they may. Market clearly feels very heavy. So this is just a choppy morning, unfortunately. It's trying its best to hold support. That's all there really is to it. Can't really do much except monitor the situation, what's going on. Normally, this is a really bearish situation. Normally, we really rip lower. Very aggressively, actually. This is a very bearish situation. So because it's taking so long, this is generally a really bearish scenario. We're holding longs currently. We got into the longs down here as this candle was bouncing upwards, but this is not the best bullish scenario. So the only thing that will save this move to the upside is a big aggressive move to the upside, like quickly. But there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. So with that being said, just really make sure that you guys don't lose money on this trade. And the 607.80 level needs to hold as support. 607.70, 607.80 level. Momentum is quite bearish. It feels quite heavy as well. So just keep that in mind. We are playing the market pragmatically. And if that level breaks, then that's going to be a really important level. Because if that level breaks, then there should be continued move lower as well. So let's see. Let's see what happens. trying to hold the 20 exponential moving average for dear life is the NASDAQ. And the SPY is holding 670, 650. This is very choppy. But the momentum is clearly bearish. But they are trying to bounce this up for dear life. If anything, if we don't continue to the upside, this is a bull trap. Trying to go long right now is a bull trap. Unless like we completely close above this QQQ 609 level, this is a bull trap. It was a bull trap. And now let's see if we get a continuation to the downside as expected. Or are we going to hold support? It doesn't seem like it. I'm going to sell if we close below 607.70. So as we're breaking below 607.80, this is essentially a really continuation, should be a bearish situation. That candle to the upside that we saw with this green candle here was a very clear bull trap. The overall pattern that I saw as well up here was very, very bearish. So it is what it is. We have to take it. I didn't want to preemptively sell in the advent that we did explode to the upside, but we can't trade based off of emotions. That's life. One loss should not really, cause people to panic. And if it does, just take a walk real quick and just come back properly. That's life. So right now, pragmatically speaking, we are trying to still hold support, but the momentum is bearish. And unfortunately, it's a sticky situation because the momentum is very bearish, but they are really, really trying to hold support. So now we're not going to force anything. If they do bounce it off of this, let them bounce it. because the momentum is clearly bearish. Can't do anything about it. There is major support at 606. 605.80 or 606 on the QQQ. We're also at major support on the SPY. Literally right here. So below 675.70 on the SPY, then we will break most likely to 674.30. But we are literally at support across the board on everything, unfortunately. So that is just a very unfortunate situation that we are, we're literally holding support on the SPY. The IWM is looking strong. It's unfortunate. Unfortunate situation that we're seeing right now. They really, really want to bounce this market, but there's clear bearish momentum. Sorry, let's see if we don't want to be early to the longs. All right. That is the thing. We don't want to be early to the longs. But 606 is super important on the QQQ. If 606 breaks on the QQQ, then it's going to drop to basically the SPY and the QQQ are all like, this is all going to drop. But this is where it needs to bounce. For continued move higher, this is exactly where it needs to bounce. Unfortunately. And it looks like it did bounce exactly off of 606. But let's see if it continues. Can't do much about this. Couldn't even go long. Like, going long at 606 blindly would still be a really terrible trade. It would not, even though it worked, right? It's not a high quality trade setup that we could have taken. We might need to go long now, but that's the issue. Like, that is the issue. We're just in a range. We're just in a range. There's not really that much bullish momentum, bearish momentum. The bearish momentum is there, but we're just bouncing off of, we're just bouncing off of support. It's not really bullish momentum, like when the market is bullish, going long at support is much better. But when the market is bearish and we dropped very aggressively to start the morning, and especially after we had a huge rally yesterday, it's not a continued bullish move, you know, but yeah, just got to be patient and wait. Support is being held. The SPY is really holding support. 675 is really, really holding very, very aggressively on the SPY. This is a make or break spot right now for the NASDAQ. The fact that they haven't dropped it is really, really interesting and important. From a mental standpoint, for retail, the fact that they have not dropped it below 606, this is very, very important. Wow. If we can close above 607.30, then we're most likely going to have to go long. 607.40, then we're going to have to go long, unfortunately. So let's see. Let's see. I'm in a lot of, yeah, I mean, that shit already moved kind of aggressively, but a bit, fuck, man. Basically, these moves are happening way too quick. It's not even really, damn, bro. Basically, I'm long, right? If you want to enter long, you could. I'm in a very light lotto position. It jumped up already very aggressively. But this is as bullish as it's going to get. This is as bullish as it got all morning. This is already jumped. That sucks. And yeah, you know, you have to have a loose stop loss on this as well, unfortunately. But yeah. This is another really interesting spot. So we just have to wait. The moves to the upside are happening really, really quick. The contracts are jumping really, really aggressively, unfortunately, to the upside. But the bullish setups are not proper. Normal bullish situations are not really holding as well, even though the setups are there. So we just have to wait and let it vomit. This is so, I mean, every single one of these support levels. Now we're at 605. But this is just unfortunate sort of grind lower, big bounce to the upside higher, and then another grind lower. Unfortunate, unfortunate situation. SPY has room to 674.30. That's the next like main level of support. Everything else, unless the Nasdaq can hold here, which I don't feel comfortable going long here, because the SPY still has a lot of room to go lower. But the IWM is trying to bottom out. The Nasdaq is trying to bottom out. There's too much bearish momentum. There's too much bearish room. It's not even the bearish momentum. There's also just bearish room to the downside. Look, I wouldn't even be surprised if they paint like a huge green candle right now. If this just like completely rips to the upside, I would not even be surprised. Because we're at support. It like algorithmically speaking, right? Pragmatically speaking, this is exactly where the market should be bouncing. That's why algorithms and bots are basically stepping in and buying very, very aggressively into this spot. You get it? So normally this is also where we would go long. But because this is some unfortunate market, right? You know, it is what it is. Because there's multiple differing variables. That is the issue currently. But once again, like this is a really bearish, really bullish setup, unfortunately. But you know, this is a very bullish setup, man. This is just unfortunate. That's why we got the immense buying pressure off of that exact candle. You know, we saw that big bounce because the setup is bullish. If we can close above, unfortunately, man. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just unfortunate. Even if we were to close above 606.50, you have to go long, man. That's the problem. But It's just a repeat of, man. That's you guys. I hope you guys understand like what's going on in the market, right? I hope like you guys are understanding like my thought process on things because these are generally good, high quality trades, and they are really basically like forcing us to take it. But the overarching momentum is like it's still bearish, but if it's gonna bounce, it's off of a setup like this. That is the only issue. If the market does want to bounce, it would have been on a setup like this. It would have been on a setup like the one earlier. It's unfortunate, man. It's unfortunate. Best we could do is just take a deep breath, not force anything, and just even if the trade does miss, we miss it. Gotta remind ourselves what I was talking about earlier in the day, earlier in the morning. Is if there's an opportunity to make money, let it go. If the situation is not great, you might as well let the chance of making money go away instead of losing it. So we just cannot do anything right now, man. Can't do anything at the moment, unfortunately. We're into support. I don't want to go short into support. And they're painting really, really bullish pictures here. They're painting very, very bullish pictures. Like Picasso. Picasso is in the building right now. This is so disgusting. The risk reward to go long right now is so good right now too. That's the problem. Generally, we would rip above 607, 607.50. Ah, damn. This is such a good long, man. Damn. Shit. Guys, I hope you don't hate me, okay? If I go long, I really, really hope you don't hate me. It's just they're painting such a beautiful picture. What are we? Please, please, just drop red. Drop red ASAP. Please drop red. Just drop red, bro. Please. That's enough. Because if we end up closing above 606.30, then we're going to have to go long. If we get a solid close above 606.60, then the market should see 608. Make it easier for us, man. Just drop red. Just drop red, man. Don't make us enter a losing trade. Damn, bro. This is a really... man. This is painful. This is painful, man, because this is gonna bounce, man. This is so painful. This sucks. This is really, really unfortunate. I'm in a lot of QQQ calls, unfortunately. I don't really, I mean, we just have to take it, unfortunately. This should see above 607.80 now, or above at least 607. If you're chasing, right? If you're entering, of course, like just take profits and leave runners. Don't let this go red. I don't really feel bad that it bounced. As I said, I was going long. You can't really do much about this sort of price action today. That's life. But the best we could do is just enter as it's going. And you, as long as you guys remain green. On days like today, it's not as clean. It is what it is. That's life. I can't do much about it. I was very vehemently bullish at the bottoms. I didn't know we were going to have a huge green candle, unfortunately, but at least we're not short, right? That's life. That is life. That's life. That's life. Beautiful. Everyone should be green, at least. And this should be breaking above 607.80. Yeah, make sure you guys have sold majority. And now we just wait. Okay? Now we just wait. I'm sorry, guys. You know, I'm not really sorry, but like I would have loved to go long down here, but damn, you know, like you have to trade in the best possible situation that occurs, right? So until we basically closed above, I had 606.30, right? We basically closed above what 606.25, right? So, you know, that's life. It is what it is, man. At least we caught this move, okay? At least we caught somewhat of a damn move finally. Contracts are up really nice. Thank God we ended up catching this low. Okay? We're hitting 607.80, which is the major level of resistance. It's VWAP on the 1 minute time frame. Overall, solid comeback trade. Good trade. Not an automatic bearish situation yet. If we start to close below 607, then maybe. But right now, the market is still showing a reversal in terms of momentum. So now buyers are going to start stepping in. Okay. Basically, buyers are about to start stepping in. And this should pop really aggressively to the upside. And we should generally get a really nice. Yeah, there we go. So let's see if this continues. But that's not really what we want to always see. We got to close above 607.80. But yeah, just. We should normally, a setup like this, we see 608.50. But just, you know, make sure you guys have sold majority and not just leave runners in profit. It is what it is. We're holding above 607.30. The SPY is clearly looking very strong as well. It's a very good sign for the NASDAQ. The IWM made a new high of day. So that strength in the IWM is pulling the SPY up. So guys, just I don't want to, right now it's a 50-50, okay? Right now what's going on in the market on this time frame right now is a 50-50. There is more room to go to the upside. I'm not looking to go short because it's a 50-50 trade. We're holding on to runners, okay? So just please, you know, let it. If you want to exit the entire trade, by all means, you are not wrong to want to do that. Just make sure you remain in profit. And yeah. We held 607.30. Support held on the NASDAQ. The SPY is still churning upwards, holding above 677. Just, yeah, man. It is what it is. While we let the runners fly, guys, put a 1 in the chat if you guys made money. Put a 1 in the chat if you guys made money. This is starting to really, really break upwards now, which is really good. 1 in the chat if you guys made money on this trade. Contracts are looking pretty nice now. It was painful. It was a really, really painful move at the lows, right? We had to go long, unfortunately. Bollinger Bands. It is what it is. All right. When I sell the full position, I better see some more ones. All right, at least we made up a lot of loss, bro. We made up, if anything, depending on how much, where you guys entered. Thank God, man. No way we were gonna end the freaking market up, the market with like a huge red. You know, there's no way. But with the stocks, with the stock market in general, you have to react to what's going on, regardless of what I wanted to happen, regardless of what I thought was gonna happen. I was bullish the whole morning, right? But if it drops below a level, you sell. That's life. You can't force it to hold your stop loss. If it drops below your level, you sell. And then if it gives another really good long opportunity, you have to take it. You know, that's why I apologized, because I really knew for a fact that we were going to have to end up going long again. But in that instance, it's like, I don't want you guys to think that I'm tilted, right? That's why I apologized. So normally, right, if we're trading alone, when I first started trading, if I had a bias to the upside and I just kept on getting long and then getting stopped out and going long and getting stopped out, going long, getting stopped out, that is you being tilted, right? But I don't trade tilted. I just, just have to take the best trade that appears. That's life. Unfortunately, it is what it is, man. That's life, man. This is still holding above 607.80. Not a shorting opportunity. And because it's not a shorting opportunity, there's more room to go to the upside. And if there's more room to go to the upside, this is risky. This is risky, but damn, this is a complete 180 in terms of the momentum. Would we enter new longs here? Would we enter new longs up here? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. All right. Don't want to short just yet. Even though it's really painting a bearish picture now. Um, hmm. I don't really want to go short just yet. Thank God. All right, let's see if we make a break above this or if this is just some bullshit manipulation. This was a lotto. You know, going long up here was very, very risky, but I didn't want to go short. So I would only want to sell the entire position at an opportunity where I would normally short. So the background color is my Fibonacci retracement level. It just overlays over the chart because it's the 1 minute time frame. I would look for bearish opportunities and shorts at least above 609.30. Because the SPY, actually, you know, the SPY is also looking to retap high of day. It's just tough to try to be bearish into this strong, like, into strong momentum while there's still room to go to the upside here. It's tough to be really, really bearish, but you want to be a seller. You want to sell into moves to the upside. But I don't want to stand in front of bearish. I don't want to stand um in front of a bullish momentum freight train. Okay, now we might have to go short purely because 609.30 held as resistance. So basically 609.30 was like the level that I was saying I wanted to sell above. But even now, like the SPY looks very, very strong, but it's right at resistance. 678.30 is major resistance on the SPY. 609.30 is major resistance on the QQQ. The Russell is above a high of day, but it's tapping at 250, 255 essentially. Unfortunate, you know, it's things are still showing a bit more room to the upside. The SPY is definitely showing a bit more room to the upside. We might get a retest of high of day on the SPY before we get a pullback on the Nasdaq. The SPY has about 30 cents left. The Nasdaq is holding well at resistance. Hmm. We're holding really well above on the SPY now. Really, really grinding upwards now. Really, really grinding upwards now. Six 609.30 tapped again. Hmm. Ah. Too much upward momentum to short. Too much upward momentum. Yep. SPY ripped above high of day. Nasdaq's looking to rip above 609.30. Yep. All right, now I'm out. I'll sell. I'm out of the whole position. It is what it is. If it continues to rise, it's just too like too overextended for my liking. It's too like grinding to the upside. I don't want to be involved when there's when there's a lack of momentum to the upside. I don't really want to be involved. If it does continue to rip, that's great. But yeah, we got what we wanted. I think we might have to go short, because 609.30 is holding support resistance so well. We might have to go short, man. And once again, I apologize. I know, but it is what it is. We might have to go short. Bid ask is messed up across the board on a lot of different exchanges right now. So we went long literally at 10:19 a.m. We went long down here. Right down there. And sold up here, and now we're looking for shorts. Nice. We missed out on the earlier trade in the morning. Definitely lost money on that. But this should have definitely at least, made something up, because we at least caught this move to the upside. The problem is, all right, first of all, hold on one second. Un momento. So one thing that I see that used to happen to me a lot, that happens to a lot of new traders, is when there is a good direction in the market, right? But if you have tight stop losses and the trade continues to not work in your favor, you become fatigued, right? So if there were really good long opportunities with solid risk reward, and you went long a couple of times and it didn't work out, you would either get fatigued and step away from the market, or you would want to naturally start to change your bias, which are both natural things, right? But then unfortunately, because these banks and hedge funds understand human emotion and psychology, that when it is time to enter the trade, most people will not enter it purely due to emotional fatigue. And that is a really, really big thing. That is something that I think if we're more cognizant of personally, right? That's something that can really help us overcome the market, because this was what, after a couple of really, really high quality longs, but didn't work out. The vast majority of people would not have taken this long. You know what I mean? Like, the vast majority of people would have just let this go by because they just wouldn't want to lose again. But it's unfortunate, right? It's unfortunate, but you have to take the setups when they appear. You have to take the setups when they appear. No matter how difficult, or no matter, when there's a good setup that appears, no matter how painful it is. Because you heard it in my voice. I really, really did not want to take it. But it's unfortunate, man. You have to take the setups and you have to take the trades when they appear. So we sold our longs a bit early. It is what it is. I have my eyes on puts. 610.50 held as resistance. The SPY hit 680 as well. These are two major levels of resistance. 680 on the SPY and 610.50 on the QQQ. Also 255 on the IWM. Everything is at resistance, but this is still really bullish, right? Unfortunately, this can really just continue to rip higher. So I'm not going short just yet, but you know, we have to have our eyes on shorts. Stayed in the long and trusted it. Just stayed full profit. Nice. So the 20 exponential moving average, and yeah. $680 on the SPY, 610.50 on the QQQ. There's still a bit more room to go to the upside, but let's see. Crude oil is down 11, 12, almost 12% today. Sorry, guys, I'm not reading the chat as much. My bad. I just had to lock in a bit. I didn't want to have us not catch some moves, you know? I'm not trying to ignore anyone. This is so we sold a bit too early, but it is what it is. At least we went long at the lows. This is definitely really, really bearish now because 610.50 is holding us resistance on the QQQ, and 680 is holding us resistance on the SPY. So normally this is like would be the perfect spot to sell all and to start to lean short, honestly. We're holding above 610.50 now. We're holding above 680 now. Abnormal strength. Now the market is showing some abnormal strength, all right? So where we originally should have just pulled back. Ah, yes. Okay, interesting. Yeah, it makes sense that we should have pulled back there. All right, we might have to enter short soon, guys. We might have to enter short right now. Because the resistance is holding really well. We should see 609 on the contracts. No, sorry, 609 on the QQQ. I'm in lotto puts. This is a really, really, really risky, but we have to take it, unfortunately. Light trade. Around high of day stop loss, we're right at 610.50. We're right at 680 on the SPY. If it rips higher, it rips higher, but we have to let the chips fall where they may, unfortunately. This is a very similar situation from the lows at the bottom. And generally, we should be dropping. We should see a retest of 609. The risk reward is definitely there on this trade. And can't really do much about it, honestly. So very, very high risk reward situation. It is what it is. Like a really nice, solid risk reward. We should at least tap the 20 exponential moving average. But if it doesn't, it is what it is. We can't do much about it. But we had to take it. Have to take it, unfortunately. This should not feel anxiety inducing or stressful. You got to be light. All right? You have to just play light. I'm in with a lotto size. Huge risk reward. Tapping at resistance. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, that's life. We just played this entire move to the upside. If it wants to continue ripping to the upside, then hey, that's life. Can't do much about it. This is a bull trap. This is a really big bull trap. They should rip it down lower. The 20 exponential moving average should generally be hit, and we should see a big spike lower. This is not really bullish to me. If we do manipulate higher, then later on into the day, the move to the downside generally just becomes way more aggressive. But in a normal, healthy environment, we pull back off of this sort of setup. If not, it is what it is. I wouldn't even be upset if this trade ends up being a loss because the risk reward is very good and the overall setup is also very good. That's the good thing about holding a light position because we can just hold it a bit loose, you know? All right. We have to sell this, but this is going to set up for a nice move to the downside. I'm gonna still look for shorts. This is not a sustainable move to the upside. I would normally average in here. Normally, I would always average in here, because we would get a really big move to the downside, but I don't want to really do that just yet for the sake of the stream and everything. But it is what it is. I would normally like, so 61160, as we're basically magnetizing to this level of resistance. Um, there's no resistance really on the SPY until 682. So 682, there's a lot of room to the upside on the SPY actually. So can't really do much about this except wait. But the market is really giving a nice setup. When we see big manipulation like this to the upside, the move to the downside is delicious. Similar to what we saw yesterday. When we looked at the 1 minute time frame yesterday, for example, right? Like right here, if we dropped, right? And then bounced and made a new high, shorting up here, similar to what we saw yesterday, was a really, really good short. So that's sort of the same situation that we're seeing right now. It is a very, very similar situation. And in these situations, unfortunately, you have to once again give and take what the market gives you. 61160 is major resistance on the QQQ. And, you know, we're at 681 on the SPY, 256 on the IWM. $150 on the 611 puts look really good. Mm-hmm. Oh wow. This is it looks like the SPY wants to go to 682. 682.30. Look at how small and just drawn out these candles are to the upside. Very, very forcefully move to the upside. It is what it is. Have to short this actually. I mean, like, unfortunately, really looks like a good short. Hmm. We're at 612.50 resistance on the QQQ, but there is 682.30 as the target on the upside to the SPY. But this is bearish, man. We're very far overextended. This should be a strong move to the downside, actually. So we have to take this. I'm in QQQ puts. Light again. It is what it is. Very, very light. If this breaks above high of day, then we'll sell. The risk reward is amazing to the downside. 612.50 held as resistance so far. 681.70 also held as resistance on the SPY. Um, let's see how much lower we can go. 611.60 is major support on the Nasdaq. If we can break below 611.50, 611.40, then we should retest 610, 610.50-ish. Because this is a really, really just not a sustainable move to the upside. So going short up here, you had to take it. Had to take that short. We're at the 20 exponential moving average on the 1 minute time frame. This generally just vomits. This generally vomits much lower. This is not a good long opportunity. We should be breaking below 610.50 and holding below it firmly. This is even actually going short here is a good short. Going short here is still a decent short. So the downside is really, really prevalent. We're right at support. Contracts are up really nicely. Good spot to sell some. We should be vomiting lower, though. I would be very shocked if we end up bouncing off this into a new high. That would be very, very heavy. Because the market is heavy right now. We should just have a sharp move lower. Generally, that's what happens. $611.60 needs to hold as resistance. Looks like that's what's occurring. Very nice. Contracts are up really nicely. Still not a good spot to go long. But this was a really, really good trade. Thankfully, this worked really well. But now the question is how much lower we can drop. My thought process is we should still be seeing 610 or below 610. There's still a lot of bearish momentum. This small move to the downside was not the same. I was bearish over here. Okay? I was bearish over here, and I thought we would see 608. Okay? So now that we just finally started to crack lower, we should at least see 610. I would be very, very interested or shocked, actually, to see it hold this level of support here. We should be continuing to drop. the contracts are barely even paying that well, you know? So when the contracts don't pay that well to the downside, because generally this would be like a 50 or 60% trade already. We caught almost a dollar move to the downside. And the contracts only jumped from what, 160 to 210? That's not a healthy move in the contracts, right? So when the contracts move this dull, it's a good sign that the underlying stock should continue to drop in that direction because they didn't start paying us that well. You get it? In the contract, they didn't start paying us that well. Once we break below 610, 610.50, that's when the price of the contract should start really, really multiplying. But it's unfortunate, you know? We did catch a really nice move to the downside from the tops. But, you know, that's life. The 20 exponential moving average is maintaining itself as resistance, coinciding with 611.60 on the QQQ. They might end up breaking it above and then maybe retesting the highs again for another move lower. But, you know, on an aggressive bullish move like today, especially when this is the second down day in the VIX, it's the second down day in crude oil. The overall market, this is the second bullish day on the overall market as well. It can't really sustain itself at the highs. But overall, there's a lot of bullish momentum, but I just don't think that it should be continuing from a setup like this. 611 should not hold on the QQQ here. And what is yet to be seen is how far lower we go. That's my thought process. Because this is still not a good long opportunity. We should be dropping further. The contracts are still not even paying that well. They're trying to hold 611, unfortunately. They're trying to paint the bullish picture. Pragmatically speaking, right here at 611, on the SPY at 680.50, these are two very major levels of support. So they're trying their best to paint a bearish picture. if this really starts to drop lower, I don't know if they want this to drop lower, because if this starts to break below 610, then this can really like just give all of the gains of the day away, and we could see a new low of day. That's how bearish the potential setup is. So with that being said, I don't really think that's what they want. Market makers are trying to keep the market propped up. But those are the levels. If we break below 610, and if we break below 608, 609.50, then there's a very good chance that we can make new lows of day. But where we ended up going short was a really, really high quality trade setup. We had to take it. Unfortunately, the contracts didn't pay that well. But that's life. It is what it is. This is hmm. Bear with me, guys. Bear with me. Bear with me, okay? What we're seeing right now is a double top. What we're seeing right now is a double top. Double tops are bearish patterns. We have to maybe enter short again. That's what the gist of what I'm trying to say is, basically. Um, if you're ready to, I mean, if you're long, I mean, the momentum is bullish, but just pragmatically speaking, the same reason why I ended up going short earlier is the setup is still there. The setup is still there, man. It is still prevalent currently, the setup. All right, last trade. I'm a 612 puts again. Last trade. We're short again. We have to take it. It literally retested 612, 40 again. This is a double top. The IWM. If it bounces, it bounces. It is what it is. But if it does bounce, the contracts aren't going to lose that much value to begin with, because they didn't really gain that much value. But we had to take it. Let's see. Okay. As you can see, I mean, look, this is not bullish. If it does bounce, that's life. But we cannot not take a short. Okay? That's the unfortunate reality of these setups, especially today. I know it was not as clean today, but these trade setups are such high quality, you have to take them. That is the unfortunate reality of these trades. And as you can see, look, we had a big move to the downside. The contracts barely moved. Futures traders are way happier today because the price of the underlying are moving way better than the option contracts themselves. The 20 exponential moving average, even on this setup, should not hold. We should be breaking below this 20 exponential moving average on this setup. They're trying to hold it for dear life at 611.60. It should not hold. If it does, I mean, look, like this is just ugly price action, honestly, then. But we caught the move lower. The momentum is bearish. They have to let the floodgates loose. If they don't let the floodgates loose, then this is just really choppy, abnormal, very, very manipulated behavior. But the setup, high quality setup, whether it works or not. If you have an open 3-point shot in the corner and you're Steph Curry, you have to take it. We got the move lower. The contracts are up barely 10%. Should vomit. This should hit like 30% in the next couple of minutes. As we saw earlier, right? It should be a repeat. Judging by the similarities of the setup and the aggressiveness that we held 611 at, we held 611 support abnormally well. We should have seen 610.50. But hey, man, it is what it is. Like, just that sucks. Make sure you guys take some profit. Don't be married to this position to the downside, because there is still a chance that we just rip higher. But at least you want to solidify some profit, take some profit off the table, and let the vomit hit the floor. Let the vomit hit the floor. Yeah, so today was a bit more uncertainty, primarily because of what's going on with crude oil, the VIX, and where we are in terms of the overall market dynamic as a whole, right? So it is what it is. You have to just take the trade setups where they come, when they come. And once again, man, like, it's just a numbers game, right? So if you're rolling the dice, for example, right? Technically, it's a 50-50 chance, right? But you can have 10 rolls in a row. If you're flipping a coin, if you're flipping a coin, it's a 50-50 chance. But you can technically have 10 flips in a row where you have heads. that doesn't mean that the chance is not 50-50, you know? So it's a similar sort of situation in today. The setups are there, the quality is there. Tomorrow is CPI data. So it's gonna be most likely it's gonna be even worse tomorrow. But yeah, you know, thankfully it's not too bad. We're getting a short signal on the 1 minute time frame. Damn, the SPY looks the S&P 500 looks very, very bullish. That is disgusting. If they bounce the SPY at the highs here, that is just super, super overextended. And that's primarily because of the strength in the IWM. So the IWM just made a new high of day. The SPY looks really bullish, but this should not bounce. This is not a high quality long opportunity. From shorting the top to now, the contracts are still barely up 15%, which is ridiculous. So the moves are not really paying themselves that well, even though we're catching the price action very well. Same pattern is on DAX right now. This is not bullish, man. This is not bullish at all. There we go. Here we go. Where the contract's at? Okay. All right, all right. This is not bullish, bro. We should. What did we do? Very simple. We went short at the top over here. We went short at the top over here. The reason for that, why? 612.50, major resistance on the QQQ. 681.60. Sorry, 681.70, major resistance on the SPY. 256, major resistance on the IWM. After a monstrous move to the upside, we already sold our longs, right? We sold our longs a while ago. Generally, I catch the tops to sell longs perfectly. But this overextension to the upside in terms of strength was very, very abnormal. So as we continued rising higher, you just had to look for a good short opportunity. And we took both of them. Now, whether this gets more follow through to the downside is yet to be seen. The situation is still the same. We are up about 20%. Where normally we just call almost a dollar move in the QQQ. This would normally be up like 40-50%. Still not a good long opportunity. But, you know, we're at 611 again. So you know what they do at 611. You know what happens at 611. That short signal on 1 minute time frame really worked very, very well. This was a really good short once again. Like unfortunately, the option contracts are not paying that well, but the setup was there. It was a double top. We had to take it. It is what it is, and now we're holding below 611.10, which is, but 611 is still holding a support. That's life. They just love this 611. I would not go long here, but given what they're doing with 611, they might end up bouncing it. But regardless, this is not a high quality long opportunity. The momentum is still quite clearly bearish. We should be definitely seeing, like, normally we should be seeing a break below 610 at least. And then if we start to break below 610, then this should, once again, in my opinion, should really, really get a big move lower. That's why I just remained bearish. We were bullish all the way up into the highs. It continued to rally. We shorted over here. That short didn't work out. But then we shorted again at the top over here. And then we shorted on this double top again. You can't do anything about it. It is what it is. But now we just have to let the runners ride. And very, very unfortunate price action. They're really trying to hold 611 for dear life, because if they break it lower, then we're going to see a monstrous move to the downside. And once again, like, I just don't think that they want that. So this is like a really big make or break area for the overall market. they're really, really trying to paint a very bullish picture. They're trying their best to get as many people bullish and keep this bullish as possible. Unfortunately. 609 is VWAP. So that becomes much better support. This should normally be a bull trap. This big wick that we just saw to the upside, it should have gotten many, many people bullish, and we should see a continued move to the downside, honestly. But if we don't, I wouldn't be surprised. We should be seeing new local lows. We should be seeing I mean, but the 611 level is like they're married to it. They don't want to make 611 unhappy. But yeah, guys, just make sure don't let contracts go red. Can't really do much about this price action. So yeah, the best we could do is, we went short at the top twice. We're just not getting the follow through to the downside that we normally should, right? But, we still captured good moves to the downside. Aside from that, you can't really do much else. We can't be married to the trade and like hold it hoping that it'll drop. If it's holding 611 over and over again, then it bounces. The best we could do is just take good quality trade setups over here and once again, let the chips fall where they may, man. All right. Okay, guys, I'm gonna get off for today. I'm gonna be, continuing to trade. But if you guys want access to the rest of the trades, my swing trades, my analysis, and everything like that, you guys could join the Discord. But, overall, we did pretty well. We made up by taking these two trades over here. So this was good trading. We just have to let the numbers fall where they may, and that's that, So with that being said, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. And yeah, man. Take care. All right. Have a good one. Love you guys.